weather here in Southern Ontario, which puts us all in a swell mood. This is the Sportsline Podcast. Appreciate you watching or listening. I'm Bubba O'Neil. As I say on a daily basis, this podcast is a space for the many extraordinary athletes, coaches, executives, and broadcasters that got their start here in the Golden Horseshoe and made their mark nationally and internationally. As for this individual, he hails from the West, but at one time he became known on Hamilton Sports Radio. When this graduate of the Columbia Broadcasting Academy hit the open market, this multi-capable broadcaster quickly established himself. How about this? While working at Sportsnet, Jamie Thomas was the Alberta Bureau reporter and the Calgary Flames pre- and post-game host. When the opportunity to move to Toronto as a national anchor arose, he took it. Years later, his talents were recognized right here in Hamilton as the morning show and Tiger Cats host on TSN 1150. Currently, Jamie doing it all with the Winnipeg Jets as a radio analyst, a reporter, and a host for Jets TV, and he also runs the team's Ground Control podcast. James Thomas, certainly a fine example of someone who's doing it all. Buddy, great to see you.
Good to see you too, buddy. How do I look in that screen over there?
You're looking sweet.
Yeah, thanks,
looking
man.
fine. You're such a good-looking fella, man. Great to see you, bud. It's been a while, but it's great to catch up. And certainly when I think about your years and what we did together at Sportsnet, and certainly what we getting even closer when you moved to Hamilton, just some great years.
Yeah, it really was, buddy. It went by really fast. Moved to the Hamilton area, particularly Burlington, in 2011, and then lived there till 2018. So it went by really fast, and we did a lot of great things with Sportsnet. Miss it all the time. Of course, miss Hamilton radio and living in the Golden Horseshoe area. It was beautiful. Still miss the weather, and so I'm really glad to come on the podcast with you today. Right
on. I got to ask you, what's up right now? How are you doing?
We're kind of reeling a little bit after what happened to the Winnipeg Jets, right? It just, a team that wins 8 straight going into the postseason and finished 110 points, tied a franchise record with 52 wins. They had 25 road wins, which was a franchise record. They had a 35-game stretch where they allowed 3 goals or less, which was also a franchise record. So all these things that looked like it was going to be a long Stanley Cup playoff run went away really fast after winning game one. They won game one 7-6. It was a crazy game, and you just thought something special was about to happen. And then Colorado just tore them apart in the defensive end of the ice and through the neutral zone, and it was over in 5 games. So lots of sitting around here. Rick Bowness just retired the other day too. So there's been a lot going on before the quiet of the summer kicks in here right away.
Well, and I think a lot of people don't recognize that, and I think it works when you're working at a TSN or a sports that you kind of understand that when the season is over, it's not really over because there's the draft, free agent frenzy. It just goes on and on. But can I get a little deeper into that Avalanche and Jets series?
For sure.
Hey, the Avalanche are an outstanding team. There's no possible way anyone could have said the Jets were going to sweep them, but they did take care of them in the regular season very well. And somehow, with Connor Hellebuyck, who I would expect is going to win the Vezina Trophy this year, they're outscored 28-14, I believe, in the series. I don't know, what happened?
Exactly what you're just doing right there. It is just, it's hard to put into words what went wrong. And I think, possibly, you win game 1 7-6, and maybe some of the players felt that they didn't have to play that tight defensive game that they had played throughout the regular season. And, going back to Connor Hellebuyck, the Jets win the William M. Jennings Trophy for the fewest goals allowed in the regular season. They allowed 199 goals. They were the only team in the NHL to allow less than 200 goals this year. And then I think if you watched game 1 of the Dallas-Colorado series yesterday or last night, that of course went to overtime. Dallas jumped up to a 3-0 lead, and it felt whenever Winnipeg got any type of momentum going, they would either take a penalty and Colorado would score on the power play, or you'd make a little small error in the neutral zone, and Colorado's transition game is so deadly that it would end up in the back of their net. And any type of momentum that Winnipeg got, Colorado would sniff it out right away. So I think it's a great cautionary tale for anybody when the playoffs start. Whatever happened in the regular season didn't matter, because Winnipeg beat Colorado 7-0 in their last game, the second to last game of the regular season in Denver. It was you're looking at this going, oh my gosh, like this is unbelievable. That Ball Arena is one of the hardest places to go. I've been here 7 years now. I've rarely seen the Jets win there, and they were phenomenal there this season. So for all this stuff to happen as quickly as it did, and to be out in 5 is just mind-boggling what is done here. And Rick Bowness said the other day, that was one of, he was disappointed with the way he coached this team in the first round of the playoffs against Colorado, and he was wondering, what else they could have done or what he could have done. But I mean, I don't think we can put all of this or any of this on Rick Bowness's shoulders. He did a great job in his 2 years here. Winnipeg is a better franchise because of him. So, I mean, that really is in a nutshell what happened to the Jets in the first round, pal.
Well, you talk about Rick Bowness, and yeah, you just talked about it and touched on the fact that he has retired from the National Hockey League coaching for, I believe, close to 40 years. Tell me a little bit about Rick. Seems old school, but he gets results.
He sure does. And, the year he came in, the Jets had just missed the playoffs, and Paul Maurice departed earlier in midway through the 21-22 season. And then Dave Lowry took over, and that, of course, is Adam Lowry's dad. Dave, long time, played over 1,000 games in the NHL, coached the Western Hockey League, had success everywhere he went. But the plan for Dave Lowry was not to coach the Winnipeg Jets. He just wanted to be an assistant coach. He wanted to coach with Paul Maurice. So that plan kind of came around at the wrong time and really wasn't supposed to happen. So the Jets missed the playoffs that year in 2022. And then Rick Bowness comes in and tells everybody he's going to change the culture in the dressing room. He's going to give Connor Hellebuck a break. He's not going to be as busy as he has in years past, because when Connor Hellebuck won the Vezina in 2020, that was probably his best performance ever, because the Jets had a mass exodus of defensemen. Dustin Byfuglien retired. I can go down the list of everybody. Tyler Myers left. Ben Sherrod, who's from the Hamilton area, left as well. So that was probably Connor Hellebuck's best year. So Rick Bowness's plan was to get him not as busy as it had been in years past and not have to steal as many games. So he takes the captaincy away from Blake Wheeler, wants more voices in the dressing room. Blake Wheeler's bought out this offseason. Adam Lowry comes in as captain. The culture in the room changes. And, of course, I'm not knocking Blake Wheeler. Different story all entirely. But Adam Lowry has helped change the culture in the dressing room, and that's what Rick Bowness promised. And Adam Lowry said 2 days ago when Rick Bowness retired that he would always check in with you. He'd ask you about your family. He'd sit down beside you in the dressing room. Those personal connections that Rick Bowness would have with the players benefited him and the team immensely. And you saw, I know the playoff success isn't there, but they're a much better team. They've got great culture going on right now. They're in a great place, much better than they were in 2 years ago. So that is all on the shoulders of Rick Bowness and what he has learned over the 38-plus years of coaching the National Hockey League, how you deal with players. And yes, he is old school. He'll tell you how he feels, negative or positively, and it's worked, right? And you saw, after they lost to Vegas last year, there was no pushback. That comment went around a lot. In the days following that, when he made that comment after the loss of Vegas in Game 5. But it built on this year. They had discussions with the players about that comment, and they came back and they were a better team and realized what they had to do to become a better franchise. And I think as I said, they're just in such a good place right now as Rick Bowness retires. You're about getting close to a decade in that Winnipeg community. What's it like? What's it like out there? I mean, it reminds me a lot. So the Jets' relationship with the fans here is very similar to the relationship that Ticats fans have with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Like it's a tight-knit community. The Jets are, they're loved here. Of course, the reactions aren't always positive whenever things don't go well because of that attention that they get daily here, right? It's a Winnipeg Jets town. The Blue Bombers have done fantastic. They're probably the best franchise in the Canadian Football League right now. And of course, they get their attention, but this is a Winnipeg Jet town, so they are loved. Of course, losing the team in 1996 just helped build that love even more when they came back in 2011. So you see the whiteout. They got a bunch of, shout outs on the Jay McAfee show in the States on ESPN. So that got them a little bit of international attention that they deserve. But man, the building it's only 15,000 seats, but it's so loud. It's such an intimate arena. That just ties into what the community is. So it's a great community. It's very supportive. I will never lie about the winters; they are very harsh. I mean, what else? What else? That's why hockey is so huge here, right? Is that you got to go inside to stay warm and watch the Jets, and they've been highly entertaining since I've been here. Outside of the 1 year they didn't make the playoffs.
So let's talk about your Hamilton years. I mean, some things didn't work out in the end. I mean, it's been. What can I say? An unfortunate part of the business for so many, and generally for so many talented people at not just the sports networks, but just networks and television across the country. But an opportunity came up in Hamilton, and you took it. Talk to me about what happened in Hamilton.
Yeah. So 2016, I got laid off at Sportsnet, right? And restored my career at Costco. I've worked there like 3 different times. So that's my fallback job. So if any of this doesn't work out, you'll find me at a Costco somewhere. And then TSN 1150 came calling, and it was fantastic. Like it was, I learned quickly. There's a huge difference between radio and television. You have to think on your feet a lot more, especially when you're hosting a show by yourself. That was Ticats at noon on TSN 1150. And I should read out the statement because Louis Butko sent this to me a little while ago. So hold on a second. I got to take care of this. I'm half the broadcaster I am because of my time with Louis. There, I took care of it. Louis, there's your shout out. So I got. He
had to be involved, didn't he?
Yes. Well, he talked to me right before we came on, so I had to get that in there. Yeah. Congratulations to having Louis at your station, by the way. It's the best move you guys have made in a long time.
Did he tell you to say that too?
Also, that's on my own. That was on my own. That was organic, Bubba. That was an organic statement. So I got the pre and post game show on TSN 1150. Of course, hosted a morning show with Louis B. Gosh, I can't even remember the name of it. The Morning Scrum. It's been so long. But I had the best time on radio, and covering the Ticats. I learned a lot more about the CFL because of that job. So, I mean, I had covered the CFL for a long time, but basically working for the organization with the Ticats allowed me some conversations with management and coaches that I hadn't had before, and you learn a lot more about the inner workings of a franchise, especially in the Canadian Football League, and the complications that come with being a Canadian Football League team and everything you have to work around. But I had a great time. It's a great experience for me. Just another thing on the resume, but it was so fun walking to the radio station every day to do that job Monday through Friday, and then of course host pre and post game shows. I do like the worst. I remember my first pregame show. Remember that when it was in Winnipeg. It was Milt Stegall night, and it was the lightning delay.
Oh yes,
that was my first. That was my first pregame show, and it was a 4-hour pregame show. I was like, we were looping through the same stories. That's when Steve Staios was named the general manager of the Hamilton Bulldogs. Just that cycle kept going through. I thought I was back on a CP24. So it was just like, so I just kept going through. And I'm like, is this what this is going to be like? And remember the commissioner, Orange couldn't decide if they were going to cancel the game or not. And I was just like, he's just kick the ball off or cancel the game. But that was I realized how challenging doing a pregame show. You just don't show up. Your preparation has to be ready for lightning delays that crop themselves up in the Canadian Football League every once in a while. But it was wild, buddy. It was Jeremiah Masoli, the quarterback. Zach Caleros was coming back from that knee injury. Probably was on his way to MVP that year before he got hurt again. So it's just a lot of crazy things happened in my short time covering the Hamilton Tiger Cats and working at TSN 1150. And so I'll never forget and always will be grateful for my time there.
Yeah, and your family really, like you yourself and your family really, you settled into the community, didn't you?
Yeah, I had like we had our youngest Esme in 2013. She was born in the hospital in Burlington. So we have 2 kids born in Alberta. We have our youngest was born in Burlington, of course. But we loved it. Like it was a little overwhelming when you first moved there from Alberta because of how big the GTA is and very complicated. But man, the parks and the weather I can go down. That's just like 2 things where you're just baffled by how nice it all was and how easy it was to be outside all the time with your kids. And especially when they're small. So yes, we loved our time there and have a lot of great memories with the community, great people. I will always tell people that. I always thought, like when we moved to Toronto, I was in Toronto downtown people are very busy, a little different out in Burlington and Hamilton and Oakville. People are a little less, busy, it seemed like, but we have a lot of great friends and memories from the GTA, that's for sure.
And let's go back to the Jets now. You've become just multi-talented analyst on the. I had actually forgotten that you were on the radio broadcast as well too. No, and I think about that. I think about what you were doing with Jets TV, and then I'm like, wow, he's like become a jack of all trades. I mean, I know what you did previously and the many things you did with Sportsnet and TSN 1150, but boy, your resume has really expanded with the True North group.
Yeah, for sure. And Bubba, I remember when I first got in the business in 1998. Let's go way back to 1998 in Lethbridge. And I remember Pete Curtis, my sports director, was like, never pick up a camera because they'll expect you to do it. And I'm like, okay. You don't even realize that you do have, like nowadays, that's the first thing I tell broadcasting students is you have to learn how to do everything. And this job has afforded me that opportunity. So hosting podcasts, was color analyst for the Jets for 3 seasons, traveled everywhere. I've been to all 32 NHL rinks now, and obviously there's Utah's coming in, so that's I might have to get back on radio so I could get to that rink crossed off my list. But and then of course doing the Jets TV stuff. We had a pre and post game show. Now I'm working with Sarah Oleski, used to be at TSN. We had a live pregame show. I can't even remember the format. It was on YouTube and Twitter. That's how old I'm getting now, Bub. I don't remember where those stuff goes. And you're like actually talking with people. So the amount of different things we've had to do has been very, again, beneficial to what you are and what you have to do. I'm writing on the website, which I never thought I'd write an article in my life. And I look at the old stuff and I'm like, "Ooh, that was so bad." But it's just like, it's like, remember, I refuse to watch anything featuring myself from before 2010. I can't do it because I'm just like, it's like, please turn it off.
That's all of us though, right? Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. I mean, we're in this sort of business where every once in a while you have to watch yourself and see some people may think it's rather vain, but it's really the only way you can say, okay, I've improved in this and I need to improve in this, really. Yeah.
And I know lots of people, like your bosses will always say, like, listen to what you did or watch what you did. Now I'm at the point where I when you mess up and you have an idea. So why would I want to go back and look at something I already know what happened so I can just beat myself up even more? And you get harder on yourself. But what we do, pal, is just like, it's so much fun. So I learned a lot that you just can't take things so seriously. Now, I never worked in news, and I know you have to be way serious in the news business. And lots of people have said, "Hey, why don't you try breaking into news, and that'll give you more opportunities elsewhere." I'm like, I can't. Like, I could never do it because I just don't take anything seriously enough to do it that way. But we've had so much fun. I'm even thinking back to when I worked with Ian Mendez on the desk in Sportsnet, and he pretended. Remember when Rafa Nadal had that back spasm on the set when he was like talking to the media? So Mendez pretends that he had a back spasm. He falls off the chair, and people are texting him, "Ian, are you okay? Are you okay?" And people on Twitter are like, "Mendez just had a back spasm on the desk. Just stop." And Gene Principe, he's we're leading into highlights about soccer, and he's like, "This is a foul." And he's like, "I want you to slap me." So I slapped him right across the face, way too hard. But we were just so this. And hundreds of hours, and you tell me the story how you hurt your ankle jumping up and down, celebrating a goal on that roll.
The Achilles.
Bubba blew his Achilles.
11 weeks off work because Derek Roy scored a goal in overtime against the Atlanta Thrashers.
The eventual Winnipeg Jets screwed you over, Bubba. So it's just like.
Folks, it's true. It's true. And not just a torn Achilles, completely ruptured. Completely ruptured.
See that? You can get hurt in the broadcasting industry. Another one, Mendez is about to do a live hit at the World Series, and someone fouls a ball off, and it cracks off his ankle, and the producer, Mendez is trying to shake it off, and the producer's like, "Ian, focus," because we have the okay? Like, the guy just took a baseball off the ankle, and the producer doesn't care. So get ready for this shot. And all you producers out there know exactly what I'm talking about. So, just some of the ridiculous stuff that happened over the years.
Oh, so great times, brother. Good days. And we'll always have, you can pop me that a year from now or a week from now, and I'll laugh just as hard.
I know. It never changes.
So much change as we talk about the broadcasting, especially industry, especially with sports. I mean, you're one of the few, actually, that's worked at TSN and Sportsnet, and now you're working for a team. And I know, dabbling myself here, working with the Ticats Audio Network, along with my work here at CHCH, it's, you talk about Sarah Oleski, who I love. She's just such a professional. And she put in a lot of time at TSN, but made the decision to work for Jets TV.
Yeah.
What is the difference or differences, or is there any difference when you're working for a team as compared to the national sports networks?
I'll tell you flat out, the biggest difference is so much more stuff than people think you know. So there's a trust level of being here. So I've talked with the general manager, Kevin Cheveldayoff. I've talked with Craig Heising, the assistant general manager, and just lots of interesting things behind the scenes that are going on within the organization that people don't know or understand about. I got a little bit taste of that with the Ticats, but more so with the Winnipeg Jets. And of course, a lot of stuff you learn, you're not going to tell people publicly because that's just not what you do. And there's that trust factor. So it's been very eye-opening. And then the adaptation, Bubba, is asking questions not from a national sports perspective. It's asking from a team perspective. So, they may be softballs. Paul Hendricks did that for the longest time. Lob the easy softball to start off every scrum, right? So it's a gift. Gene Principe does it. Very excellent job of asking tough questions in a very nice way. You have to master that a little bit more when you work for a team because I got in trouble once for asking Paul Maurice about what he thought of a certain penalty call. And Scott Brown, the PR guy here, told me, he's like, you can't ask that question because Paul could go off and get fined. You know what I mean? Like you might say, so you have to word your questions or not ask those types of questions. So that took me probably 2 years. And then other times you just have to let the scruns happen because when, bad things, you lose 7-0 or something, you just got to let the local guys do their job because you're not going to help anything by throwing a question in there by going, is there any moral lessons from a 7-0 loss? Like the softball doesn't work in certain situations if you don't understand what I'm trying to say.
Well, it's funny you brought up Paul Hendricks. He was my guest yesterday, and he had talked about the fact that there is a trade-off, and you're right. You can't be dropping bombs on when you're working for the team. And, your paycheck's coming from that team. But he said that the good trade-off is that you get to sit down and talk to the athletes. There's a trust level that you grow with then looking over your shoulders for the national guys, right, that you can't trust. And that's the trade-off, and that he actually preferred being on that side because he got to know people.
Yeah, that part too is they start to become people a lot quicker because I travel with the team. You stay in the same hotels, obviously, and like one time the guest trip, my mother-in-law came with me we went Chicago, Carolina, Columbus, and my mother-in-law was flying home from Columbus back to Edmonton. And on the way to the airport, as I'm dropping her off, there's an Uber outside. Adam Lowry, Neil Pionk, and I think I'm trying to remember who the third player was. But they let us jump in the cab with them and paid for the Uber. So that's how you start to realize they're people, and not just because they helped us out and gave us a Uber ride to the airport, but it just kind of that relationship builds and that trust comes from that. And I've enjoyed every second of it because I've got to know a lot of people as people rather than athletes and general managers and coaching staff.
Well, let's look at hockey. Obviously, hockey's your big thing right now. We're down to the final 8. You got a winner for me? Do you think you got a winner, or at least a Stanley Cup matchup that you can forecast happening?
I'll just tell you right now, is Colorado. I don't think there's anybody that's going to stop them. And I'm not just saying because of what happened here. You saw a great example against Dallas, but there's something extremely. They have 13 guys that have won a Stanley Cup in that dressing room. That's the second most in the NHL before the playoffs start, because I think Vegas had 21. I know they have Alexander Georgiev, who's not exactly reliable in most cases, but you just saw, like, if you make one mistake, Colorado's on you. They are 4 lines deep, which I did not think they were. I thought the Jets were the deepest team in this league coming into the playoffs. But I don't see, outside of Colorado going in a longer series in the next 2, this round, and of course the conference final, and maybe being a little beat up going into the Stanley Cup final. It's an easier road in the East. That would be the only thing I think can stop them. And then from the other side, it certainly looks like the New York Rangers are on their way to the Stanley Cup final. But Colorado, New York would be tremendous. But I'll lay it on the line right now and tell you the Avalanche are going to win the Stanley Cup this year.
It's amazing, like, you mean, and you have the guy that could win the Hart Trophy this year, and it's amazing the how outstanding he is. I find with McKinnon, he there's times I maybe don't even notice him, and then all of a sudden he just takes over a hockey game, and that's a special skill.
It is, and that's the elite players. And the Jets' matchup with Nathan McKinnon's line was the Adam Lowry, Mason Appleton, Niederreiter, and they had outscored them heading into Game 5. I think it was 3-2 at 5-on-5 with that line on the ice. But in the third period, when they were facing elimination, the Lowry line gave up, I believe, 3 goals 5-on-5 to the McKinnon line, and then the series is over, right? So it's hard to contain them for a long amount of time, but they still remain so dangerous. Like, you'll watch them on the ice, and Shushkin is at another level right now. He is phenomenal. Mikko Rantanen is an elite player. You have Cale Makar on the back end. There's a lot of dangerous players that can hurt you on every shift of the ice, but when that McKinnon line steps over, you have to be aware of where they are, because they can hurt you in many different ways. They may not score, but they'll change the momentum of a game in a heartbeat, and that's what elite players do. And I think Nathan McKinnon, I really think, Bubba, like Nikita Kucherov, what he did this year with a team that is on its way down because of all this, the playoff hockey they played, and they're pretty beat up. They've got a lot of mileage on them. I thought he, to me, is the Hart Trophy winner, but I would not be upset or shocked if Nathan McKinnon wins it. But he is watching what he does for a long stretch of time, for almost 2 weeks here in Denver, just solidified his status of just how great of a player he is, if you didn't think that already.
Jamie, you talked about, the last thing here is that you talked about being bored in July and August. Yeah. But, do you have something special planned for the summer, or are you just going to chill?
Well, my youngest is in soccer now, Bubba. So we're going to Minnesota for a tournament, but other than that, just some tournaments, and then preparing for the draft. Jets don't have a first-round pick this year, so that has screwed me out of going to Vegas for the draft. So thanks a lot, Kevin Cheveldayoff. Sometimes you have to think of other people and winning and my trips and vacations that I was supposed to get out of that. But so I'm not going to the draft, but we'll be covering it, and of course, free agency, as you mentioned. And the Jets still have to name their new head coach, so that is coming down the pipeline here. I'm not sure if it's immediate, but that's one of the big things that they're going to have to figure out here coming up. But other than that, the summers here are tremendous. You get up to 40 degrees sometimes, and it's a good place to be. So it'll be a pretty laid back summer for me. But and like I said, there's some days where you're coming up with your make work projects and you have to look busy at work, but it should work out just fine.
Well, I know if you happen to sneak out a trip to Ontario and you get to Southern Ontario, look me up, brother. I mean, it'd be great to just catch up and see you and have I don't think we say pop here. We like to say tea nowadays. We like have a tea together. It'd be a lot of fun.
Let's go have some coffee or something. Let's have a coffee. Let's have a coffee. Talk about our feelings. Let's talk about our feelings, Bubba.
Yes, our feelings.
We haven't talked about our feelings in a long time.
No, I need to get in touch with myself. I'm still working on myself.
There's some great, cucumbers are great for the eyelids if you want to take a rest. That's just some things I've learned over the years. I can pass that knowledge down to you, buddy.
That's okay too. We can go for a facial. We can go for a pedicure. Sure.
A mani and a petty. Like this is just
mani petty. Come on now.
This is what dreams are made of. Sit by the lake and just talk about it. Let's just go.
Jamie Thomas, thank you so much for joining us. It's been great catching up with you, brother.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked me to do this, buddy. I appreciate it. I hope you're doing well.
Thank you very much, buddy. I certainly am. Thanks for joining us, brother.
Anytime.
Well, folks, we love talking sports from a local, provincial, and national perspective. And if you do know of an athlete, team, or event to promote, the Sportsline Podcast want you. Contact me on many of CHCH's social media platforms, and we'll get you on the cozy couch. Please hit the thumbs up, 5-star like, and subscribe button because it really does help us out. For the talented minds and hands that make the Sportsline Podcast possible, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow.